everybody. Today I'm going to talk about the spiritual ego. What is a spiritual ego? And how to know whether or not you're in spiritual ego or not. I'm going to give you guys about 11 questions, 10 or 11 questions that you can ask yourself so you can figure out if you are just spiritual or if you got a little bit of spiritual ego. And they go hand in hand. It's not like it's like one or the other, but you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. When I break it down, the spiritual ego, when I break the spiritual ego down into two different parts. So first we need to establish, well, what is ego? A lot of people kind of get this misinterpreted. They kind of think it's just that overt personality type or like very high self-esteem. But your ego is just any and all thought process that you have, whether it's conscious or subconscious. You can never, ever, ever get rid of your ego completely unless you die. The ego is not only just unhealthy thoughts or those what we label as bad personality trait type of things. Like, oh my God, that person has such a big ego. When it comes to spiritual matters, the less you know, the more you know. Or is that even so? So what does it mean to be spiritual? In short, it's just all about yourself, your self-work. It can incorporate those more like woo-woo type of aspects, like crystals and going to a psychic and all that other fun stuff. But you'll see, I'll get to it. I call this like more innocent ego, and I'll dive into that in a bit. Spirit is without ego. Souls are egoless. So we have on one hand of spiritual ego, we have innocent spiritual ego, and on the other hand, we have toxic spiritual ego. Insert funny vegan joke here. I'm better than you because I'm a vegan. I vibrate at a higher level because I don't eat meat. You're bad. You're not spiritual. You eat meat. That kind of thing. Innocent spiritual ego would ask things like this. Is he my soulmate? Or have I reached enlightenment? Spirit doesn't need labels, especially when it pertains to spiritual matters. It doesn't need anything that comes from the mind. Innocent spiritual ego just tries to make sense out of things that are just they are. They can just be. They just be. They're just there. It's the way that our 3D minds can process and comprehend 5D. It does not have a God complex. On the other hand, I feel like I got the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other one, and they're like, anyways. So what is toxic spiritual ego? Toxic spiritual ego says, you need to do this. You need to be that. You're wrong about fill in the blank. Or how could you charge money for a spiritual service? Angry face. I'm right and you're wrong about a spiritual matter. Toxic spiritual ego comes into play. This is where that God complex comes into play with toxic spiritual ego. Sometimes as an innocent spiritual ego can sound like toxic spiritual ego, but what I'm trying to illustrate here is, and what I want to emphasize is the God complex part of it. You know what I mean? That God complex part of it. Always remember that when it comes to matters of spirit, you are your best guide. Nobody can tell you what's best for you. You are your best instructor on your spiritual journey. If you choose to get somebody like me, a coach, to help to guide you along your path, I always say this, I said it before, get somebody that is more of a guide that's going to help you find the answers within yourself than a guru. And I always say, if there's some kind of guru, why do they have to call themselves a guru? Like when somebody gets that guru status, it's not because they're calling themselves a guru. It's because other people are calling them a guru. And oftentimes the person themselves usually won't use that word. They won't call themselves a guru. But I digress. Your spirituality is yours. Your spiritual journey is yours. Don't let somebody else's spiritual ego get in the way of your own journey. Spiritual ego can be a tough cookie to crack. At a certain point along your journey, ego can disguise itself as enlightenment. And it can be a little bit difficult to distinguish if it's spiritual ego or not. So here are some questions that you can ask yourself to see if you're more in like a spiritual ego or you're actually on an authentic spiritual journey. Because here's the thing. A lot of times when people say, oh, I want to start a spiritual journey, they buy a bunch of crystals, they go see a psychic, maybe, or they buy tarot cards, or they get into the external without ever looking inside of themselves. And so these are some questions that can help you determine whether or not you are actually on an authentic spiritual journey, or if you are just embracing those spiritual ego aspects and calling it a spiritual journey, if that makes sense. Like I said before, they don't have to be separate. You can be on an authentic spiritual path and still like your crystals and all that stuff. It's just when the external type of things guide you and mean more to you and come before diving into yourself and finding your truth and healing yourself. I hope that makes sense. So the first question I have is, ask yourself if you place a heavy emphasis on spiritual labels. So like soulmate or twin flame. I know you guys are out there with that one. Without the greater understanding of the truth behind those spiritual labels. Are you unbalanced in either the lack of recognizing your humanity and the 3D, or the lack of recognizing your spirit, your 5D? So essentially, are you too much up in the clouds, or are you too much down to earth in the 3D? Are you too far up here, or are you too far down there? It's a balance. I feel like the Nutcracker. I don't know why, but I did that. So it's a balance. So placing heavy emphasis on those labels. So I know you guys are out there, those people that get triggered when somebody says, if you don't blah, 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 they're not your twin flame. If you get triggered by that, that's something within you. It's not what the other person's saying. Just saying. Another question you can ask yourself, do you criticize those who charge money for a spiritual type of service? If so, how does this criticism come out? Do you name call or just simply state your opinion in a balanced way? And everybody has an opinion, and it's okay. It's all about how it comes out sometimes. Do you shame or judge others based off of their own spiritual beliefs? Again, if so, how does this come out? Are you balanced and grounded in your own beliefs? I see a lot of people judging other people judging, and then I call them out and I say, you're doing the same thing to this person that they're doing to other people. So you are judging them for judging somebody else or something else, and they don't see it. Ego can be funny. Do you believe that you are better than somebody else because your own spiritual beliefs or practices because of them? Do you have a greater understanding that there is no superiority and that everybody is at the exact place in their soul's growth as they need to be, but also understand the need for spiritual growth, and is there balance? So a lot of this is always going to be like, do you have that greater understanding, and are you aware of it in yourself? When somebody triggers you, do you use this opportunity as a chance to heal what it is within you that caused you to be triggered in the first place? Or do you convince yourself that you know more than the other person and therefore you're superior? Sorry, still on that. How truthful are you with yourself, and how is this reflected outwards? If you say that you are generally a kind and loving person, but you're not kind and loving, in truth, in reality, how aware are you of this, and how aware are you of yourself and your unconscious beliefs? I see this sometimes when it comes to dating, when guys say, oh, if I like a girl, I'm going to go up to her and I'm going to chit-chat with her. And then guess what happens? In real life, that person ends up seeing a girl that he's interested in and then is like, no, I'm so scared. I'm scared. No. Boy, you were just saying that you would just walk up. If I'm interested in a girl, then I'm going to walk up to him. Or if a guy's into a girl, they'll always go, please. That kind of thing. Do you know your truth versus being honest? That person was not being honest by saying, if I like a girl, I'm going to go up. He believes that to be true, but he can't see how that statement is not truthful to his own truth. How open are you to constructive criticism, and how do you respond to it? Do you get defensive and triggered, or are you opening to listening and learning? Again, there's balance. Are you present and authentic? How does this internal state of being show up in your external state of being? Do you tell yourself that you are authentic and present, but in reality not practice being vulnerable, and you're always anxious from living in the future? Do you place a heavy emphasis on external circumstances, such as veganism, what another person chooses to wear or how they present themselves, what they do with their spare time, rather than their internal state of being? How do you respond when someone else is projecting something onto you, such as their stresses, etc.? Do you remain present, grounded, and calm, or do you allow yourself to get triggered as well? Here's a bonus. We love bonuses. How accepting are you when you do not meet your own expectations, or somebody else does not meet your expectations, including your expectations in your own spiritual journey? How do you treat yourself or somebody else if you or they are not unable to get defensive or triggered? I hope I said that right. How do you treat yourself or somebody else if you or them is not if you're unable to not get defensive and triggered. It was like double negatives and stuff. You know, like I said before, it's true. People get into things like chakras, crystals, burning sage, meditating, spiritual labels, and other things of that nature when they begin a spiritual awakening, or they might get into that. But your spiritual journey and your spirituality is not dictated by these external things, and it's not bound by these external things. A spiritual journey is an internal journey. Sure, those external things may change with it, and it's a known fact that meditation does help with your inner state of being. But your inner state of being is not dictated by your outer state of being. Nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. I still have my issues. Our imperfections are our perfection. But this doesn't mean that we should not continue to grow and learn. Accept what is, but also recognize your potential to grow. I have seen the most spiritual ego, like totally in spiritual ego. I've seen the most spiritual people have a complete lack of self-awareness. And I have seen people that would be described as non-spiritual people have that self-awareness. Just be, guys. That's all that I have for you today. Again, I am a certified life, relationship, and spiritual coach. I do free 30-minute initial sessions. If you want to upgrade to a full session, you can do so for 50% off. There's some links in the description for you to check out, as well as my contact information. I got the socials down there. I got my websites down there. I shouldn't have said websites because I only have one website, but you catch what I'm saying. Got my website in the description and all that jazz too. Don't be afraid to shoot me a comment. Let me know what you think. Until next time, everybody.